Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Piera and today I'm here with a bunch of mini reviews. So this is a new kind of I don't want to say segment or series that I've decided to start doing, but it's basically mini reviews. So it's reviews for the books that I read, but don't love enough to want to give a full video to, or don't really have enough to say about the book to give a whole video to. So it's essentially just a bunch of books that I have read in the month that I kind of wanted to review to you guys really quickly, but didn't want to pretty much give a whole video to. That was essentially the vibe. So for you today, I have 4 mini reviews about 4 books that I have read in the last month. I don't have them on me because they're obviously still in boxes. So we're going to be talking about The Deathless Girls, Gideon the Ninth, Middlegame, and House of Salt and Sorrow. The first one I read was Middlegame by Shannon Maguire. This book I listened to on audiobook and I really enjoyed it. I'm a big Shannon Maguire fan. I love her Wayward Children series. They're one of my favorite series. So getting into one of her other books was oh, interesting. I'll give it a go. Shannon Maguire is one of the smartest people, writers that I think I know. She's just so mind-bendingly smart. So Middlegame is essentially kind of this weird parallel universe, alternate timelines book about these genetically engineered twins who were created to embody the doctrine of ethos, which is a whole other thing. These 2 babies were separated at birth, so when they got older and they were ready to kind of come into their powers, they could bring them together and just kind of have them grow up in lives and ways that there's a whole bunch of science to it. It's in the book, you'll figure it out. Without giving too much away, I really enjoyed the book. It kind of got slow in parts and it was slow paced in terms of getting into what was going on, but I liked it because it was very character building. We hear from Dodger, who is the female twin, and Roger. There is a reason for their similar sounding names, so don't worry, that's not just a twin thing. There is a reason for it. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really interesting concept. Like I said, it's a very parallel universe, alternate timeline sort of thing. I wish I kind of had a physical copy of it because each of the titles of the chapters are the different timelines, and as I was driving I couldn't really remember which timeline was which is kind of important, but I think you kind of get the whole story regardless. But it was a really fun, enjoyable book, and if you read the Wayward Children series, I definitely recommend picking up Middlegame because it is good. Next up we have The Deathless Girls. The Deathless Girls is a book that just came to me for review and I was like, you know what, I will read it because all my other books are packed away and why not? So The Deathless Girls is kind of like a retelling of Dracula's Bride. So yes, there were vampires and I'm not a huge vampire fan, but I didn't really hate the book. The Deathless Girls follows 2 Romani sisters as they are captured from their traveler family and kind of sold off to this lord of the neighboring country. And essentially they're kind of being groomed to be presented as, I don't want to say prostitutes, but kind of, escorts is probably the best word. I don't really know how to put it. They're being groomed because of how they look. Potential brides, but not really brides for the lord of the place that they have just been taken. Obviously they're trying to escape and they're also trying to figure out kind of what their special abilities are going to be. One of the girls was planning to be a bear dancer when she grew up, so she'd be partnered with a bear and kind of a bear trainer. The other sister wanted to be a singer, and so that kind of took a back step and wasn't super important to the full plot, but essentially it's just their story of how they try to escape vampires at the end. It kind of went from 0 to 100 real quickly. It was a super quick book. I read it in 2 hours, but it was just kind of a lot of build up as they became, as they were captured and they was trying to escape and as they were being groomed, until when they ended up with Dracula. Essentially it went from 0 to 100 in terms of vampire-esque stuff. Didn't love it, didn't hate it, finished it anyway. Next up we've got House of Salt and Sorrows, which I read on my Kindle. I bought a Kindle for my birthday and it was my first Kindle read. This one is a retelling of Bob Dancing Princesses, which is a fairy tale. Kind of, but kind of not. It's essentially, I liked this one because it was really grimdark, essentially. Now there is a lot of mention of suicide, there is self-harm and all of those sorts of things, so if you're sensitive to that, be aware of it. But it essentially focuses on these 12 daughters of this household. 3 of them have died and everyone kind of thinks there's this curse on this family of girls because they just keep dying. On the most recent death, our main character thinks that it could have been a murder, not a suicide. So she kind of goes to figure out then it becomes a bit of a murder mystery. It is old-timey periody in the way that it's kind of, there are lots of limitations on the women. It's very much the men have to approach women and it's there's a debutante ball and all that sort of stuff. So it was fun. It was enjoyable. Which is weird because it was super dark and murky and I don't know how to explain. Grimdark is probably a good way to describe it. But I really enjoyed it. Again, 0 to 100 very quickly at the end. It's kind of a lot of setup, a lot of mystery, a lot of weird airy mystery stuff, and then to 0 to 100 within like the last like 50 pages. So yeah, if you're into that. The next book is probably the book that I enjoyed the most out of all of these, but didn't really have enough to give a full review to. And that one is Gideon the Ninth. Gideon the Ninth is lesbian necromancers in space, essentially. So I was like all hyped for it. It took me a very long time to figure out what the fuck was going on. Like, let's be real. There is no, like, you just get thrown in to this world building, this language system, this hierarchy of things, and you have no idea what's going on. Like, I mean, I didn't. I had to Google a bunch of words, and then I was like, what's going on here? I did enjoy it. Both of our main characters, I believe, are either lesbians or bisexuals. There's like not a huge amount of romance in there, but it's like a very slow burn enemies to lovers, which is probably what which is why I kind of hung in there the most, because I really loved that relationship. But we essentially follow Gideon, who is, it's really hard to explain. She's like an acolyte of a house, and she and her mortal enemy, who is, I'm gonna say like the princess of that house, it's not the word, but to make it easier, are sent to compete in this Cluedo-like event to become immortal or something. Like I said, like I don't actually know what the fuck was going on. Like, it's not, and it's set in space, but there's not really much space going on, and it's essentially like there's 9 houses, and each of the prince or princess and their like sword gets sent to this house to figure out this riddle, and then people start dying, and it's very weird. It was very confusing. I was very confused. I like Gideon a lot. I like her sense of humor. I like her reactions to things. She's one of those characters that I just find really relatable and real to me, because her reactions to things are like, the fuck is going on here? Not just like, I'm going to accept it. And just kind of the banter between Gideon and Harrow, which is our princess, who's not really a princess, and like kind of all of the death magic and all of that sort of stuff. So again, I really enjoyed it. Self-harm, kind of murder, suicide warnings if you're sensitive. I liked it the most out of the books that I read. Didn't like it enough, didn't understand it enough to be able to give it a full review. Like, it would have just been a lot of this, me being like, I think it was kind of like a murder mystery Cluedo, and she's a princess, but she's not really a princess, and she has a mask, and Gideon has a sword, but she's not really a sword, and where did Gideon come from? And it was a lot. It was a lot for me. I'm sure somebody out there has a better review to it. It is a good book, and I do recommend you read it, but I just couldn't wrap my brain around what the fuck was going on. Like, I'm gonna have to read it again. Now, like, I'm gonna go watch a few reviews, and then I'm gonna read it again, knowing more information, essentially. Like, go looking for information before you read this book, because it is confusing. It confused me in my tiny pea brain. Anyway, that was just my really quick mini reviews. They'll get better as I get a setup, but that was it. Those were a few books that I read over the month. Didn't feel inclined to make a full video. Let me know if you've read any of them, or if you understand what the fuck was going on in Gideon the Ninth, because I would like to know. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!